you for tuning in to Hacks and Hobbies with your host, Junaid. In Season 2 of Hacks and Hobbies, we're visited by our amazing guests coming from all walks of life. Want to learn their story, their struggles, and their journey on how they got to where they are today. So stick around. In this episode, I'm just gonna drop in some lines, drop in some words, the usual talking to myself. So one thing you've probably noticed is that we are lapsing and haven't posted any new episodes recently. And that's mainly because there's been some big changes that have come, and it's kept me from keeping a proper schedule. But all that's going to change. All that is changing, and I'm planning on making sure that these episodes keep coming. I do have a few interviews that are coming through that have been monumental for my growth, and I think it will be quite helpful for you as well to check them out. One interview that that was published yesterday or earlier today is a talk with Kelly Salem, and here she is a podcaster as well as a entrepreneur. And the important thing was, how we started talking about is that you've got to start, and it's very hard to get started because you want everything to be perfect, but you don't know what perfect looks like if you haven't made any mistakes. And sure, you can study all that you want. You can look at what everybody else is doing. And if you do that, then you'll be just putting yourself through more trouble than it's worth. The simplest thing you can do for your own podcast is to just start. Start recording, edit it, and publish the episode. Because that process will teach you so many things, and it'll also tell you your own process of what is your process versus trying to follow somebody else's process. Because everybody has different amount of time, they have different amount of resources that they have available to them in order to produce, record, schedule, all those things, right? Everyone has different levels, and there's so many variables. So what are those variables? You figure those things out, and you only figure it out when you start. So start recording, press that record button and start talking, and you'll start talking about what you're absolutely passionate about. Now, if you've done some preparation, and most people do a lot of preparation around, okay, what is my topic going to be? What is my chat going to be about? Where is this conversation going to go? And I try to figure that out on the fly, especially when I'm talking to a guest. We really have to see where the guest is coming from, what kind of knowledge they have, and how can I extract that knowledge from them, or not just extract, but get them to speak about things that they are passionate about. It's still a learning process. It's still it's still something that I'm learning, still something that I'm growing and understanding what I need to look for. And sometimes it's super hard. For example, yesterday I had a lovely conversation with two people. One was Quentin Allums. His podcast episode will be coming out later this month. And the other one was Falguni Katira. Now, both of these conversations were two totally different conversations. Not in a way that, they're not both entrepreneurs. They're absolutely entrepreneurs. But something that I learned is that, from the get-go, you've got to figure out, or you've got to have this knowledge getting into it, that, what is my guest passionate about? What is their passion? What do they love to talk about? And how to steer the conversation so they go to that point where they absolutely love. So if you look at a chart where you have four quadrants, there's and these four quadrants can have two axes, of course, and the axes could be anywhere around. They love to talk about this thing and they have a lot of experience in this thing. They love to talk about this thing, but they don't have enough experience in this thing. They don't like to talk about this thing, but they have a lot of experience, and they don't like to talk about this thing, and they don't have any experience. So you want to figure out where that which quadrant you're going to be in when you start talking, and how to bring them to the quadrant where they love to talk about this thing and they absolutely have a ton of knowledge. And so it was a great learning experience for myself. And as I do more interviews, as I talk to more people, the more I am growing, the more I understand, oh, that's how I should have taken it rather than the other way. And it brings me back to the point that Mark Metry made in his article on, whenever you're interviewing somebody, make sure you do your research. It makes a big difference between doing a 5-minute Google search versus a good amount of research about the person that you're going to talk to. Consume, I think from that, the action plan would be consume all of the content about the guest that you're about to speak. Consume all the content they've put out publicly, on even if it's on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, or LinkedIn. Consume all of that content so that when you start talking, you know exactly, you basically know the person. And sometimes you know somebody, but when you start talking, it's a different conversation altogether. And you'll notice that from me, when I have the guests on the interviews, about how much knowledge I have about them versus them having about me, and what are they like, what's their mind state when you're talking to them. Are they into it? Are they tired? It's just bothering me, right? It's this experience that I am trying to overcome and understand. Okay, things happen and you just got to keep going forward. You can't just stop and be like, oh, I failed, I can't move on anymore because I need to fix it. But that's the thing, right? You fix it in the next round. You fix it in the next conversation. You fix it in getting to know yourself better. And as I talk to more guests, as I bring in more guests and talk to them, saying the same thing over and over different ways, you start to analyze the situation. You start to analyze yourself. And I know a lot of people are probably far ahead in this space, and I'm not in that space right now. I'm learning, going through that process myself. And so yeah, man, that's what's happening. There's a huge change that I've undertaken where I'm focusing on many different ideas and many different things that I have been working with and working towards. So all of those things are kind of falling in place. I've gained some more time in my day where I can focus on more of the stuff that I love to do, more of the stuff that I'm passionate about, and creating solutions and creating basically helping people be their best in the things that I know about. So, and I've talked about these things. What I'm good about is, anywhere from photography, videography, and pre-production and post-production, video creation, content creation, in any format that you want. I love bringing all of those things together. The one thing that I'm looking for at the moment is I'm trying to make up my mind around if I need a logo created or different logos created, if somebody else can do that for me, or should I be doing that myself since I have the expertise, or should I focus on the things that's going to help me move forward and not fall into the same cycle of just focusing on working on the things that I find joy in. Because some of these things you can spend a ton of hours and not move forward, and other things you can spend a ton of hours and move forward tenfold. So I guess that is the answer, right? That's the answer. I already have the answer. I should focus on working on the things that's going to help me move forward tenfold rather than staying in one place. So yeah, that's pretty exciting to come to that conversation with myself, right? I had the awesome opportunity to also talk with my good friend David Calvert of Car Thoughts with David, and we talked about some fun things. We talked about movies and games and books and novels and TV shows and how these all of these things come together and what people are doing. It was a fun conversation. So if you get a chance, check out Car Thoughts with David. He's got a new interview conversation every day. He's surpassed 200 episodes, and I'm really proud of this gentleman. He's got some really cool tools up his sleeve, and he had asked me to call him on his phone number, and I was like, sure, I'll call you. And I was like, how are you going to record this conversation? He's like, oh, I'm using Google Voice. So as soon as I hit the number 4, the conversation starts recording. I was like, what? That's awesome. So it doesn't require data. It's all recorded over the phone line or the cellular line or whatever. So there's very less chance of degradation. But then the other thing is that you don't get 2 separate files of audio, and I guess that's either my flaw or that's something that just makes me feel I'm in control, is having 2 separate files for each of or a separate file for each of the person on the conversation. Just helps you also shape the conversation. You can totally cut up the audio bites and lay them out as if you're talking about something totally different. It's a little fun, I guess. But anyways, that's what's been going on. I'll share more details as things come together, and continue to post the podcast interviews that I've had recorded in the past few months. And I know my guests are anxiously waiting on when their episode is going to drop, and so they can share with their audience, so they can be like, hey, I had this awesome conversation with Junaid over at Hacks and Hobbies, and it was a ton of fun. So yeah, if you're interested in having a conversation and coming on to this podcast, feel free to check us out on hacksandhobbies.com. There's a link to request a podcast episode interview, and you can jump on and request a conversation and see where we go. Thank you so much for your time, your support, and coming on and listening to the podcast. I am extremely thankful to you guys, and this is a lot of fun recording episodes and talking to you guys and sharing my experiences on what I'm doing and what I'm working on and what works versus what doesn't. So yeah, if you find this helpful, send me a tweet at hacksandhobbies.com, or jump on the website hacksandhobbies.com, send a message, and see what happens. Thanks so much. Have an excellent day. Congratulations, you made it to the end of the episode. Thanks so much for listening to our guest on this episode.
please send me an email at junaid@hacksandhobbies.com to tell me what you loved about our guest today. You could find links mentioned in this episode on the hacksandhobbies.com website.